Today, ExGuard helps fleets take another leap forward to protect their investment, to make life simpler, to never yield to downtime. Introducing the next generation of front-end protection, ExGuard, Generation 3.
Welcome to Loaded and Rolling. I'm your host, Thomas Wasson, and gonna have a fun show today. If you just saw the promo with the folks at ExGuard before the official Loaded and Rolling theme, well, that's what we're going to be talking about. It's this fascinating world of front-end guards, protections, and, getting to dive into some of the world of towable accidents. Why you should preferably not ever get towed, because there's a lot of problems, costs, and other things that can impact your fleet. So we want to protect ourselves from as much damage as possible. I love to talk and interview with guests and stuff about the mechanics of running a business, but you also need to protect your business. And so we're going to welcome on our guest, Adam Roorda, head of marketing at ExGuard. And Adam, a pleasure to have you guys on. This is, I remember getting to work with you all back in the day on a piece we were writing, and we were interviewing a customer, a very large fleet. And that was one of the things that they told me was crazy. It's like, why do you all install these front-end guards? And they said, well, there's so many sensors and all this other stuff going on that it's actually one of those things nowadays that people don't think about, where you're protecting your investment because the trucks are more complicated. First, tell us about yourself and ExGuard. This is cool stuff.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Thomas. Appreciate it very much. So we're an Iowa-based company, 100% made here in the United States of America. So we're really proud of our American heritage. We've been around about 15 years. The market for ExGuard and for grill guards in general has grown tremendously, as obviously the requirements for technical specifications and other equipment has increased, as well as the costs in general of replacing some of those parts that are at the front end trucks have gone up. The demand for ExGuard has gone up as well. There's a bit of a misnomer that a lot of the technology will prevent accidents, and that is true. And at the same time, there are incoming things that come into trucks that technology just can't stop. And so there's a lot of need for a hard product at the front of a truck that can prevent significant damage to the vehicle.
And I think that's something really great to highlight, because when you're driving down the road, motorists, you think of like rocks hitting your windshield. That's one of the things that always bothered me. But as we'll see in a little bit, we've got a compilation of videos titled ExGuard's Biggest Hits. And I think this is really cool. I love dash cam stuff. I used to work in fleet ops. My wife works in safety and compliance. I get to see, I get to hear about instances where things just hit your truck, and sometimes it's animals, sometimes it's tires, sometimes it's cars, birds, whatever you name it. When the company started and having an involvement with it, it was one of the biggest surprises for you was that, most people think that it's kind of like that long tail. It's the stuff you don't expect that's actually going to ruin your vehicle.
Yeah, that's a great point. So it's kind of Murphy's Law. What can happen will happen. And every day we see just crazier and crazier things. So a lot of folks will know us as deer guards. That is true that we protect against deer and elk and moose. But there are there's other things we see every single day. About 11% of accidents that happen don't involve animals. So it's things that happen in parking lots, things that happen to the side of the road, wheel offs. So there's just a plethora of things that are out there on the road. And I think once people start thinking about their fleet in terms of what damage happens that maybe doesn't get reported, plus those things that are not animal strikes, then they really start to see the value in grill guards in general.
Let's cue up the video. Let's spin it up here. Sure. It's there are 5 videos, and what we'll do is we'll play them all at once, so that way we can get an awesome one. I'll give some reactions as well. That way we'll have a fancy clip, and then we can talk about it and go down the numbers about why it's important and the instances for each one. So let's let it rip. Let's check this out. I've had this happen to my drivers before as well. But the second and third time as we watch, it just gets even better. The driver's 63 feet ahead on average. You don't really sometimes feel that trailer, but you would assume that the beeping or something would help. Here we go. Once more with feeling.
I wish those were love taps, but that's definitely not a happy situation for anybody involved.
And it's heavy. Those things are, when you're fully laden, you can be up to 80,000 pounds. and that's gonna leave a mark. But look at that. That's amazing. I've had instances where stuff's pulled off. Let's check this one out. Look at a little razzle dazzle with the Honda.
Yeah, we called that one uncivic behavior. I thought that was kind of humorous. Yeah, it's a situation where the belt wrapped around it. Yep.
Oh my gosh. And that's, especially with that chrome, that's such a pain to replace. Excavating equipment, always fun. Oh, he didn't need that tire. See, and here's, I think that's one of the tire part is one of the craziest parts, because here we go. Got another one. Boom. That one's flying through the air. And I can get stuck in the grill. I've had them get stuck in the grills. I've had them take out the headlamp, the whole assembly. Look at that. It just bounces right off. Final one. This one gets wild. Look at that. I don't even need to yield at that point. All gas, no brakes. But
yeah.
Look.
I even swear, I bob my head back and forth when I watch that one because I try to miss the truck and it doesn't help every time.
And that's so hard for drivers. I mean, that's showcasing the instances of this. Look at that. Look at the front end of that thing. That is remarkable. You don't think you need the dash guards and the grill guards until you do, and that could have taken a situation where you would have lost the entire front end and turned it into a minor issue instead of a major one.
Yeah, for sure. So that the first one that we looked at there, we call that the triple crown of hit and runs. It's kind of a baseball theme, but the fact that the driver in front wound up 3 times, surely let you know that, and that's nothing that the driver instigated or could have even stopped. They were, you can hear the drivers basically yelling, stop, stop, stop. And he keeps getting hit over and over. And that's not uncommon for 2 trucks to collide either at low or no speed. Most of the time that's going to get reported as damage, but in a lot of cases that would just be written off or it'd be painted over it at a shop, depending on how much care is put into it. And that's an instance where a bumper replacement and a headlight or another fender like that would probably run you $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 in 2 or 3 days worth of downtime. So then you're already into closing in on $10,000 in damage. That particular instance, the guard right there bent, and that's a really easy case for us because you just replace the bracket and you're ready to go back down the road right away. And actually the driver could drive the way that was there.
And at DOT, I've seen instances where they're backing into truck stops without a guard. It'll rip off that front area, the front panel, the quarter panel. It'll rip off the front of it. And you're stuck waiting. Oftentimes, your first line of shops just don't have that kind of paneling and equipment. So you go to a body shop. The body shop tells you, we got to go to the dealership. And now that 2 to 3 days is like 7 days, and I'm not DOT compliant until I get it taken care of.
Yeah, 100%. If you look at like the internal rate of return documents that we offer for clients to take a look at the value of the guards, you often see about 2/3 of the cost can end up being in the downtime as opposed to the repair cost. So you got 100% right on.
I think I've had instances where trucks can make, at least when I ran solos at a large fleet, $4,000 to $5,000 per week. Don't quote me on this, but the cost of it being down for a whole week, in addition to the thousands of dollars in replacement, you're like doubling it up because you're losing the time on the asset.
Yeah, for sure. The last survey work that we did towards the end of 2023 was about $1,200 a day for our fleets that are running anything from dry vans to reefers. Obviously, the more complex equipment you have and the more complex shipping operation you have, the more expensive it's going to be. But for the most part, it's $1,200 to $1,500 for most of our fleets. The
second video, uncivic driver. You have vehicles making improper lane changes. Drivers are trying to be very safe. So when we're looking at that little Civic and stuff, the guard itself could have been much worse had that equipment not been in there. Because Isaac Newton, and as well as how you're impacting it, sometimes it's better to just spread out that force. Yeah, for sure. And this is a particular instance. Fortunately, this was kind of a medium speed incident where this happened. In this particular case, the driver could just drive away. It wrapped the car out. And so what a lot of folks don't understand necessarily about front end protection is that our guards have have a demonstrated ability here to prevent what we call front underrun protection or front underrun incidents. We don't necessarily claim that from a safety and security standpoint because that's not a requirement for trucks, but there is certain amount of peace
of mind knowing that that is available through our guards. As an extension of that, if you do run guards, if you're a fleet that has a grill guard of whether it's our guard or another company, you definitely want to check with your insurance company to make sure that you're getting credit for that kind of protection, that extra level of protection that this provides. So it's another good example of this is not just an animal related product, that there are a lot of other major incidents that can be avoided because you have grill guards. So definitely talk to your insurance provider about getting credit for running guards.
That's one of the things I really like. I've spoken with some insurance folks. I spoke with Reliance Partners, a few others. A lot of conversations lately have been around, well, let me use the ELD and the telematics to show you what trucks are actually being utilized. Or let me use the telematics to show you how we're driving. But I haven't heard a lot of conversations. I think this is a great topic to raise, is that it's kind of like a homeowner's insurance. I'm cutting down a tree so I don't fall on my house. I'm putting a grill guard in front of my asset. And then if I can itemize and show you the cost of replacing it, maybe you can give me a cut or a discount or something if available, because you're putting yourself in a different bracket. And insurance people love that because they're a bunch of money crunchers. And if you're in the wrong bracket, it can get very expensive.
Yeah, it's all about, for the insurance folks, it's about loss ratios and risk profiles, those kind of buzzwords that are in the insurance industry. I spent quite a bit of time there and automatically realized that this particular product, ExGuard, does a really great job of mitigating a lot of the risks that are out there on the road. So again, if you do run guards or considering running guards, talk to your insurance company about what, if they have a captive program or if they have some other sort of discount for running guards and other protective devices like that.
I like the Excavator one. So we had the middle video called Freewheeling Excavator, and I've had this happen too many times where, you're just driving down the road, your lane looks good, everything looks good. We've got this guy going, and then next thing you know, he's the one who has dry rotted or crappy tires. You couldn't have done anything wrong. Look at the bottom mirrors. You can see he's in the lane of travel. Driver is doing fine, but then boom, look at that. Like it's almost like two of the hotshot trailers were colluding. One pin falls next to the driver, and you can't prevent that, and that's still downtime for the fleet. That's a problem now I have to deal with. My load is late. I have potentially customers mad at me. Like there's a lot that goes on over those things you can't control.
Yeah, we had our engineers run kind of crunch the numbers on this one and the other one where the wheel off came back at the truck. And if you do the kind of the simple math of that, it's about the equivalent of taking a bowling ball and shooting it at your truck at little over 230 miles an hour. So that's not something that you want to take lightly. And of course, when you have that much mass and energy flying around 65, 70, even 80 miles an hour, that is no joke from not just a maintenance standpoint, but a safety standpoint as well for drivers.
And I can imagine without things like that, it can flip up quickly. Sometimes they can hit the windshield. They can get lodged in the windshield. I've had instances where it'll go through the radiator. So next thing, because that front frame, it's not really the most reinforced part. If you look at a Freightliner, I was familiar with Cascadias. Your videos had very nicer trucks than what I was used to, where you have it all like plastic and it just rips off and it's very, modular like that. But, man, I can't imagine. That was like the conversation I had with that large carrier that worked with you. It was like they kept saying that these things would happen. It would take out the wrong sensor, and then you have that extra downtime because now I need like a $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 collision avoidance sensor. And oftentimes they put the sensors right at that bottom bumper, inside the grill, inside the very parts where those tires go like straight through.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so what we talk about is our guards have been verified with the manufacturer that makes a lot of those radar systems in particular, and so we've made sure that our guards avoid what they call their no zones essentially. What we want to make sure happens is that those systems operate exactly as they're supposed to, and that we stay out of the way of interfering with them. And of course, then to your point, when a wheel is coming up at a low angle like that, the guard helps get it out and away from the sensitive areas of the truck. And in particular, like you said, a new CMS, a collision mitigation system, is going to run you $4,500 to $5,000. A grill is going to be another, several grand. A radiator, and then if you obviously do get into the block or into the cab, then you're talking about life-threatening issues. And so again, the grill guard is going to push that tire out and away from the body, and obviously that's a lot safer situation than having it go open in through the cab.
It's also better because I've had instances where, depending upon the make, I think they were Volvos. I love you, Volvo. Big shout out to Volvo. But I've had like the drivers I had with the Volvos one time that I've had 2 deer just get stuck in the grates. It's like it captures the deer and you're still going down the road. And then the irony is later, like my drivers would call in and somebody wants the deer. And so like I've had, kid you not, like even out of a Tunnel Hill, there's laws like in I'm from Tennessee, so we're Chattanooga. Tennessee allows you to like, carry out to go if you find it. So, I can't imagine instances where, at least with having some form of protection, you at least are not having to have a situation where you go 500 miles down the road. Because sometimes drivers, like, you're high off the ground. If it's a little deer, it gets stuck inside it. Like, all the drama associated. Let's do the second one, Wys Wheels. I think that's technically our 4th video down the line. This is another instance where the wheels. So we've got the one excavator. Here we go. Here's the one. This is a guy. Oh, there we go. Yeah, look at that. Somebody else messed it up, and there's the entire wheel, whole assembly. Just a little bit of just a paint job. It looks like.
Yeah, that's just our PVC coating that really you can patch that up in about a 20-minute. After you wash it off and buff it out, that's about a 20-minute repair just to touch that up, as opposed to replacing the entire bumper. Or in the worst case, it goes under the front assembly of the truck, and then you're talking about ramping it, or you're going to lose control potentially. That way, the wheel got, in this particular instance, the wheel got pushed off to the side. I'll be honest, I looked at that video probably 10 times before I realized that it was the traveling vehicle, and it was not the vehicle on the side of the road where that wheel came from. So boy, what a hazardous situation. And that happens tens of thousands of times a year on our roads. And so super dangerous situation, but this is not uncommon for our guards to stop something like that.
And I think that I like the highlighting factor because for motorists, a lot of times you'd like to blame the 18-wheeler. Oh, the big trucks, their stuff, don't be next to an 18-wheeler. But a lot of times it's the motorists themselves. You're just having to react to these instances. And speaking of reacting, this was the last one here. The drunk driver chase, the guy pulling into a lane of travel, onto an interstate as if it was like, pulling into your local road or something. Here we go.
Yeah.
Good grief.
So the driver, go ahead, Thomas.
I've seen that a lot of times, and it's so hard because having the guard as well as the dash cam and all the setup, having that as an integrated thing, that's going to save your driver. I've seen instances where the driver hits it like that, and then they lose control, and then it tips over on the side, and then you have like, it's really easy. You wouldn't be surprised. Like, I've seen it I had one of mine get blown over on the Weather Channel. One of my team trucks made it onto the Weather Channel. It was outside of Laredo, and it's the same way. Like, they're very top heavy. And so having that guard to help dissipate that force, I've seen it too many times. All it would take is him to go off in that median, and then he's just boop, right on the side.
For sure. That's an instance where, AEBs or the automatic braking systems would be helpful in those situations. It can't stop everything in that particular instance. That was a drunk driver they were obviously not in control of their vehicle. They were swerving, and that was the end, essentially became the end of the police chase right there. The gentleman who was injured in that, his name is Vince. He firmly believes, and I think we all agree that on our end, that his life was saved because the guard ended up pushing that Dodge truck away from the vehicle and preventing that overrun or underrun thing from happening there. The truck was damaged, but in this particular case, so Vince is an owner-operator. He's an owner-operator for one of the major carriers, and he did a heck of a job keeping that thing upright, even getting hit, but it did help push the vehicle, the truck away from the car, the Ram truck away from his semi. And so it was certainly a great instance where a guard saved someone's life and saved their livelihood because he could get back on the road, and he was trucking again the next day, even a little sore and stiff, of course, from getting hit that hard, but he was able to get back on the road the next day.
I think it helps. You had a great point in buffering. The type of collision, pushing it away from it. I've had instances where when I'm looking at dash cams, they get caught on the underride of the back of the trailer. So certain collisions where you're hitting, sometimes they'll just ride the edges of that thing, and next thing you know, as soon as they hit that first back wheel, they get caught and trapped and pinned under it. And God, I saw a dash cam. I'm not going to say who. I saw one where the guy was coming over and a vehicle was trying to merge, and the same thing happened. It bumped the front, and they gets caught under it, and you can drag them for a period of time. And a lot of talk about the side guards, but having a front guard to push away can be a potential solution as well, since they just have a bad habit of just either getting caught under the front or the sides.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you brought that up. So there's been a lot of discussion lately, certainly in trucking media, about the government having interest in underride protection, especially rear and side underride, and those are all worthy endeavors. Certainly, we want to see safer roads. I think what ExGuard is trying to do right now is stay ahead of that by providing that front end protection and keeping those instances that could happen at the front of the truck away from the vehicle. There will be, certainly depending on the outcome of the elections this fall, going to be extended conversations about what side and rear and front look like from an underride protection standpoint. But we encourage fleets to be proactive and think about what front underrun looks like for them, and to make sure that they do everything they can to help mitigate the things that might come up from a front underrun standpoint.
And it kind of ties into reducing towable accidents. You all recently had published a white paper talking about 80% reduction in towable accidents. I think that's important for folks who don't understand. From how I get it, DOT reportables is somebody getting towed is one of the big factors that can impact your safety score, the ability for you to even get loads. You could be shut down. Like, talk about a little bit why it's important to not have anyone get towed versus, not having the features.
Sure. Yeah, you hit 100%. Those affect those scores, and then of course, it impacts your ability if you're trying to work with a company that is looking for a certain score. The bigger issue that might come up almost immediately is contractually. What happens if a load or loads don't make it on time? What do you have to pay out of your pocket to meet those requirements? I think it makes a lot of sense. It's essentially what we hear from our largest partners is it's a no-brainer when you start to take everything into account as far as like the accidents that happen on the road, the accidents that happen in the parking lot, and then those that don't get reported that are just minor fender benders. The big thing that we look for when we talk to the IRR as far as our guards is that you have to take everything into consideration, not just what you're thinking and feeling at that moment about the damage that's happening, but truly look at your numbers as far as what you pay in downtime and what you pay for repairs. And in general, what we've found is that our customers have a payback period of about 2 years on the guards, that they'll cover the cost and then start paying for themselves. Essentially, what you see in a fleet of 1,000, 15,000 trucks is about $1,000 in savings every year, between $1,000 and $1,500 in savings every year, due to the improvement in downtime, the improvement in damages, those kind of things. So, encourage, regardless of whether or not you run guards or not, we certainly encourage that you should really have, if you're a fleet and operating a fleet, you should really have a good handle on just the 360 view of all your expenses when it comes to damage and downtime.
And I'm assuming if fleets upgrade their trucks, large ones 2 to 4 years, depending upon the average cycle, I'm assuming as long as the guard's in good condition, I can just plug it, pull it off, and then put it back on the same model if I'm buying the same fleet grade of truck,
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple of things that go along with that. The first is that, our guards for the most part are, you can interchange them. There are a few models here and there, Mack Anthems, if you have something that's maybe has a set forward axle, that they don't quite line up with a more sleek, something new. But in general, our guards themselves will go across lots of different vehicles. They do occasionally require different brackets because the tow hook spacing where we engage the guard on the truck is different in many cases and has different position and hole sizes and depths and those kind of things. So, but it's a pretty small price to pay to get a new bracket just to switch a guard over. And we see guards out on the road that are 10, even 15 years old that are still operating as good as new. You can wash it off after you have an encounter on the road. You buff it out. You you touch up the PVC covering on it, and you can just keep going.
That's one of the fascinating things. And kind of looking at, we got a little bit of time left here. The pre-trip, there's something called a zero-G lift assist. I'm assuming it's how mechanical leverage, you can pull the hood down via the guard, or?
Yeah. So one of the things that you have to understand is that the guards they're not I wouldn't say they're light as a feather, but they actually have some girth to them, right? Like they have to protect a very heavy truck, 80,000 pounds, so they are made of 8 and 11 gauge steel. And of course, that does have some weight to it. And so one of the things that we heard from drivers consistently and from safety crews, from HR departments, from personnel folks is that it'd be great if the guards were easier to get up and down because I need to open my hood to do a pre-trip inspection and I need to lower the guard at the same time. So our new generation of guards actually have a spring assist to them. It's a function that actually helps you lower the guard. It takes about 2 pounds of weight to lower the guard, as opposed to in the past it may take an 80 or 85 pounds. So it's important from a safety standpoint. We hear from our customers that it opens up ease of inspection for drivers of all heights, sizes, abilities, strength. You can imagine there's a plethora of folks that this makes it much easier to do inspections for, and so it keeps them on the road for longer, creates a much more diverse workforce, creates a deeper workforce because that allows you to have a bigger pool that you can pick from who can actually physically do the inspections and those kind of things.
I'd be one of those candidates. I'm severely out of shape, but we're in good shape now with the interview. Talking about folks want to learn more, check out the white paper, get in contact with ExGuard. Best way to find out.
Yeah, for sure. You go to exguard.com. It's a little bit different. So it's ex-guard.com. That's ex-guard.com. Best place to find us there. We have them for semis, class 6 through 8. We do RVs and we do commercial vans. So we're growing quickly and you'll start seeing them on a lot more vehicles.
Check out the white paper as well. Adam, thank you so much for your time. Love the videos as well. Thanks so much for sharing all that with us.
Thanks, Thomas. Appreciate the opportunity, man.
That's going to be a wrap for this show, but if you're just joining us, we'll be on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. We have a newsletter called Loaded and Rolling. Comes out Thursdays at 2 p.m., and you can catch this show live Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. See you soon.